With the anticipation and excitement for Dragon Age the Veilguard almost coming to a close, just 1 week away until the game fully releases, and only a couple days, October 28th, until leaks have reported that reviews are going to start coming out from the review copies, where does the success or potentially the failure of Dragon Age the Veilguard leave Bioware in their upcoming projects, specifically something like Mass Effect 5? And before we get into the video in full, thank you guys so much for 430 subscribers. I really appreciate the support. If you like gaming news, if you like gaming reviews, specifically with RPGs and action-adventure type of games, and you like what you see here, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I really appreciate you guys. Now let's get into the video. Dragon Age the Veilguard is a very important and big release for Bioware. As of right now, Bioware's back is completely against the wall, and they're really trying to come out swinging on every single front right now with the recent news that they've had with Dragon Age the Veilguard and all of the details around the release. First, we have seen them very confident in the pre-release event, giving people 6 hours to 7 hours to freely play the game, skip their lunch breaks, etc. They dropped this game to make it only $60. They are not putting a bunch of BS in the pre-orders or anything like that, other than just some appearance items. On top of this, they're allowing you to play this game directly on Steam on day one instead of using the EA launcher. They're not including any third-party DRM or de novo in their game either as well. And all of this is showing a lot of confidence from Bioware. And they would not be doing this, I do not think, if their back wasn't against the wall because of some of their recent failures that they have had with some of their previous games. A big one to mention is obviously Mass Effect Andromeda, which came out about 6 years ago, that was an open world game for Mass Effect that had bad facial animations, a lot of bugs, and overall the open world just left a lot to be desired. They also had something like Anthem, which was a complete disaster, Bioware's really first foray or big foray into the live service world that came out and most people really did not enjoy the game. It had pretty much no story at all. There was a decent amount of bugs in it. There wasn't a lot of content. There was a lot of time gating, and overall, they just have had a bad track record over the last 10 years or 9 years, pretty much since Inquisition came out. And although Inquisition won Game of the Year and was a great game, there were still a lot of issues with it, specifically with this open world formula and something like the Hinterlands, which had a lot of just bogged down, boring quests that almost overwhelmed you at times. And with the Veilguard, we see a lot of this stuff changing. We have heard so many different people talk about how the game is a very smooth, bug-free, polished experience, at least what they have played so far. That could always change in the later acts, and they're hiding it for later in the game. On top of this, we've seen the change from open world, obviously, to a more structured, open-ended experience. They also changed this game from originally a live service game to an actual single-player RPG. And I think overall, they're really trying to tell people that they do care about their games, that they're trying to push something out that the players are going to love, but although all of this is the case, there are still a lot of things people initially don't like about Dragon Age the Veilguard, just from the trailers and just from the previews and everything that they've shown so far. And the biggest thing I would say is the art style. It shines directly through in the trailers, looks like it's been Disneyfied in a sense. It looks like it's not as dark, gritty, and quote-unquote dark fantasy as all of the previous games used to be, which I think rubs a lot of Dragon Age fans the wrong way. And then on top of that, they're changing the combat from the original tactical, more pause-based combat over into something like directly pulled out of God of War, where they're trying to really make a more action combat styled game. And in addition, they're not bringing hardly any decisions over from previous games, which is a huge bummer. They are not bringing anything from Origins or Dragon Age 2. The only thing they're really bringing over from Inquisition is your relationship and whatever you chose at the end of the DLC. I think both of these things is really Bioware saying they want to appeal to a broader audience, which I think can get a little bit dangerous for especially a studio like Bioware, who has had a very consistent and die-hard fan base for their games. And I think this is further supported supported by the overall tone of the game and how the different companions are communicating with each other in the narrative and dialogue. And although we've heard people have really enjoyed that for the most part, there's people who haven't. In the pre-release events, it is definitely obvious that they are kind of doubling down on that more commercial audience and trying to appeal to as many people as possible, and not necessarily the Dragon Age fans. However, that's not to say they are not also trying to appeal to the Dragon Age fans specifically, with branching and consequential dialogue and options for you as a character, with returning characters that we know and love from the Dragon Age franchise, with a direct, basically, sequel to what we saw in Inquisition at the end of that DLC. They are definitely pulling in all of the lore, pulling in all the stops in terms of those returning characters, and trying to also keep them included in this franchise, in this game, so people who love the lore will still hopefully enjoy this game once they get used to the new gameplay, the new art style, and things like that. And with all that being said, with the amount of skepticism, the amount of worries, but the amount of excitement and anticipation for this game is all going to come together. There's going to be probably a lot of people that dislike this game and a lot of people that like this game, and who knows whether this game is going to fully succeed or the game is going to end up failing. Obviously, as someone who enjoys games, as someone who enjoys previous Bioware games, specifically Dragon Age games, I really hope this game succeeds. I'm going to give them my money and try it out and review the game, whether it's good or bad, with no bias. I just want to know if this game is going to be good or bad, and obviously, we will not know until this game comes out. But with all that being said, what does this mean for the future of Bioware if the game fails? Well, I genuinely think it might be the end of them as a studio. They have not had a success in a long time. There was a ton of development issues with Dragon Age the Veilguard, originally called Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which is to kind of be expected if you're changing it from a complete live service model into a single player RPG like they do best. But on top of that, I don't think they ever make another game if this game fails. I genuinely think this is the end for them. That's why I've said that their back's against the wall, and all of the decisions that they've done leading up to this game, I think proves that they know their back is up against the wall. I really genuinely think that a lot of game companies have a 3-strike rule. You can make one bad game, and if you've made good games previous, okay, we'll wait for your next game. But once you make 2 bad games, I think a lot of people are looking at you like, wow, okay, maybe they don't have it anymore. Maybe all of their developers are different. Maybe they just don't have the magic that they used to have as a studio. But once you release 3 bad games, especially if those games were related to your main series, like Mass Effect and Dragon Age are for Bioware, you are in big trouble. And with Andromeda and Anthem coming out, not being very good games as a whole, this one really needs to be good for Bioware. I don't think we see a Mass Effect 5, which is on the far horizon, but the next game for Bioware even come out if this game comes out to be a commercial disaster or a critical disaster in terms of, the different critic reviews on Metacritic, etc. However, if this game is a success, which I'm, again, hoping it is, who doesn't hope a game comes out and reviews well and is a fun game? Everybody wants to play fun games. If this game comes out and is a good game, then I think this lends itself very well for Bioware's future. They were able to release bad games, change a lot of things with their company, start doing better consumer practices, and release a game that is fulfilling and a game that is fun and a game that both Dragon Age players and people who aren't necessarily Dragon Age fans, the more bigger commercial audience, will also come in and appreciate this game. I think that lends itself very well for Bioware in the future as a whole. It'll show that the Frostbite engine isn't necessarily the problem. It was the developers using it that weren't able to use it well for more open world live service type of experiences. And then I think Mass Effect 5, it kind of ensures Mass Effect 5 not being necessarily, hopefully, open world, more of an open-ended experience like this would be if, again, it succeeds. And then on top of that, something that's not going to be boggled down by live service, and something that they can take the confidence in the same consumer practices they did with Dragon Age the Veilguard and push that into Mass Effect 5 as well, almost turning Bioware into a much better studio than what we have seen in the past. I think it'll also give all their consumers and all their fans a lot more confidence that they can deliver for that franchise like they did for Dragon Age. And if they make a good Mass Effect 5, then both Mass Effect and Dragon Age are in such a good place overall within gaming, and I just genuinely hope for that future. I'm optimistic for that future, although again, I am skeptical and worried about this next release, and all of this really relies on, does Dragon Age the Veilguard come out and succeed, or does Dragon Age the Veilguard come out and fail? Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really want to hear down in the comments, do you guys think this game is going to succeed, or do you think this game is going to fail? And based on either of these outcomes, what do you think this means for BioWare in their upcoming project, Mass Effect 5? So thank you guys for watching the video. Again, like this video if you like the video, and subscribe for more content like this. I really appreciate you guys. I will see you in the next video. Peace!